All right, this week on Mish, we have Mr. John Allen from the Huntsville Committee of 100. So sit back and enjoy the conversation with John. Welcome back, everybody, to Mish Men. Excited to have you back. Once again, we're missing my partner in crime, Dusty. He's been out for some time. He's got a lot of work that he's got to do, and I completely get that. And he's got that new baby that's just a little over a year old, so completely understand that. But I'm going to keep churning away and producing content for you, the viewer. So I'm excited to have you listening in on this episode. If you recall, last week I had guest host Tony Moffitt, good friend of mine, former test pilot, and we had our conversation about the Trump trial verdict and just government at large. And this week I have a guest, Mr. John Allen. We're happy to have you here on the Mish Men.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. John is a friend through the gym, and I've known you for 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We'll go with 5 years.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sounds better.
Yeah. So John Allen, a friend through the gym, and just see him around town from time to time, but mostly at the gym. We've talked about having him on the podcast several times, and I'm excited to have him here today, even without my partner in crime. So
absolutely, his loss.
It is his loss. Yeah.
We'll have to come back and do it again when he's here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you're bold enough, be on that rowdy RFTB, but I don't know. That's
true.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. So quick intro on John. John is a native of Huntsville, went to Lee High School.
I did.
He is currently the CEO of Huntsville Committee of 100, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, or a lot about that later. In his past work, he was president of Southern Construction and Design. He was also VP and COO, Chief Operating Officer for Cornerstone Engineering Group. Did some engineering with BP and graduated from Auburn University with a mechanical engineering degree and with a specialty in rotor dynamics.
Well, that was part of the specialty that we worked on, and then I was a co-op at NASA working in rotor dynamics on rocket engines. So yeah, I've done a little bit of everything from chicken and poultry processing to rockets. So a lot in my handbag.
That's good background. Nice diverse background. I saw rotor dynamics and I got excited because that's near and dear to my heart. Was my past life with a little bit of application in my current life. You're married to Tammy for 2 years now.
2 years, love of my life.
Yeah.
Life
is to see you guys.
Yeah, life is a different world right now, and so grateful to find each other and have each other, and we're just enjoying life together. It's incredible.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations on your 2nd year anniversary. I know I said it through Facebook, but
thanks.
Better face to face.
I appreciate it.
So welcome to the program, John.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here, and it's been great to get to know really the gym life over the last 5 years. Like we were talking earlier, I never had the gym in my life ever. And so stepping foot in a gym like this and just the culture and the people like you and the rest of the gym has just been incredible for me and made me a better person, a better leader, fitter. And so it's been great to be here and certainly great to get to know you as well.
You bring up an interesting thing, and we might intersperse this idea throughout our conversation about cross-sections of life. And this is one of those areas. It's like crossing the Rubicon for the Romans where you have engineers, you have presidents of company, you have CEOs, you have business owners, you have real estate developers, you have interns, you have just a variety, a crosswalk of folks, construction workers, builders, that sort of thing. There's a lot of value in that, I think, in being involved in clubs or groups or a gym where you have a community of friends that's not isolated to your normal business interests or your normal work interests.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think part of it is just in your life trying to grow your perspective, your network of friends, your network of people that can help you be a better person. Mm-hmm. And the thing about the gym is we come in here, it doesn't matter what role or title you are or have, because at the end of the day, the workout, the barbell, the sweat, the heat, the summer, that's what you're up against is you and that workout, and you're just trying to be a better version of yourself when you leave. And so it's really a great equalizer as well, and then just cross-pollinate you with other friends and folks that you may not have ran into as well.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Todd a lot. Todd and I are grown to be good friends, and I never thought I'd be friend with someone that does what he does. I'm not going to get into specifics. It's just not in my normal circles.
Yeah.
And it is always makes for an interesting friendship because it's, we have a lot in common, even though it's completely different fields.
Yeah, I mean, it boils down to people, and people just like us, we all have different desires and different perspectives and viewpoints, but at the end of the day, we've got to figure out how to work together and how to get things accomplished together as well, and those things are important, and that's done on a one-on-one basis.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. So I just kind of briefly went through some of the things you've done, but anything about your growing up, your parents, they still live here, or tell us about growing up in Huntsville.
Yeah, so my parents, my mom passed away in 2012 and my dad in 2015, and as I have said, I struck the jackpot with my parents. They were just incredible encouragers. I'm a Huntsville native, and so for me, growing up, it was Civic Park, it was baseball, football, it was all of those things. The the opening day parades, and so they were just incredible. Dad was an Eagle Scout. He encouraged me to go through Boy Scouts, and so I got my Eagle Scout back in 1986 when I was 15, and so just those things that I was allowed to do growing up that were just quintessential all-American family.
Right.
And so just super grateful for that. And in fact, in my office, I have a desk that I built. And it's really kind of a testimony to my parents. I have a lot of their documents underneath their marriage certificate, and they were married for 58 years. And so it's just a great remembrance for me every day when I go to work, just what they built and instilled in me as I try to lead in that space. And so for me now and what I do, to have that perspective of growing up here in Huntsville, and now looking at the growth that we've had, the incredible opportunities that we have, it's been an interesting vantage point for me to be able to see that.
Mm-hmm. That is neat, and it is a blessing to have that kind of background with your family that they instilled a lot of those values in you. And there's a lot to that. It's optimal.
Yes.
It just makes things gives you that perspective, and you see the value of things, especially when you can look back at what your parents gave you. What did your dad do? Was he a businessman like you, or was he?
Dad was, as I've said, Dad was your quintessential engineer. He got up, he did his calisthenics at 5:30, and he had his breakfast, and he got his lunch, took it to work, came back at 5:30. He had his pocket protector, in the morning, so he'd have his push-up eraser, and he'd have his mechanical pencil and
slide rule.
I still have his slide rule on the side of my desk, actually.
Yeah.
And so Dad was your quintessential engineer. If you had an image of an engineer, that was Dad.
Right. Yeah.
But Dad grew up he was born in 1932, and so he went. I've got his war savings bonds from World War II, and just thinking through how he was raised and what that meant for me. So yeah, Dad was a mechanical engineer, and so for me that was kind of the path that I went on, and I did engineering for 9 years, and then went on to small business building houses.
So what was the line for you? Was there any kind of being a businessman? It's a different track, although it's an easy transition for an engineer. It's an easy transition for an attorney or a lawyer. Yeah. But what was it about that attracted you? Was it anything in particular?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. So when I graduated from Auburn, my first job was at Amoco Chemical, BP Amoco in Decatur. And it was a great job. I loved it. It was hands-on. I'm a hands-on learner. So, for me as a mechanical engineer, I got to go play with pumps and pipes and structures and tanks and liquids. I mean, all those great things that mechanical engineers do and learn. Mm-hmm. And then after 5 years, decided that I want to go into a small engineering company, and ended up buying into that company, got my professional engineering license, and then did that for 4 years. And then I got to see, again, like I mentioned earlier, chicken plants to rocket plants. Mm-hmm. I mean, across North Alabama. And then we had already, my former father-in-law and I had started Southern Construction and Design, and decided in 2002, end of 2002, first of 2003, to go into that full-time and give it a ride, if you will. And did that until I started this role in 2017. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my path to where I'm at, today. Mm-hmm. But all of that is relevant experience. All of that is just relevant, kind of building on where I'm at today, and building my perspective of how kind of the community works and how the region works as well. So that was my path. But the lessons of a small business guy go with me daily. I mean, we went through the Great Recession in 2009 and 10 as a small business in the construction world, and
that's tough.
I could tell you a lot of what I learned through that 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was hard, but, lessons learned. And quite frankly, your word matters. And, that's something my dad taught me, He'd say, son, your word in a handshake still matters.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So what, tell me about how you got into the Committee of 100.
So,
you know what, first of all,
yeah.
Just at large, just a brief synopsis of what the Committee of 100, because I had to look it up. I've heard it 100 times, but I didn't know exactly what it was till I started reading last night.
So the Committee of 100, we are a membership-based organization. We're a 501c6, founded in 1995. So we're about to come up on our 30-year anniversary. And we had 8 founders. In 1995, they said we needed a third-party organization that operates outside of the bounds of elected leadership or other entities in the community, and really focus on 3 things: cooperative local government, making sure our elected leaders work well together. Number 2 is long-term visioning and economic development. So what are tomorrow's problems plus 10 years we need to be working on today? And then the last is high-quality public education. So how do we make sure that we have high-quality, high-achieving students, 55,000 students in Huntsville, Madison County, 3 systems. And so from there in 1995, that's what we really work on even today. We've got a lot of different things that we do now, but that's the root of it. And we do that through our members, which are CEO-based. We actually have 339 members now. We crossed the 100-member mark in 2002 when I joined, actually, in May. And so you ask, how did I get to this role? And the answer is I was part of a group that I was living in Madison at the time, and Committee 100 said we need to have folks from Madison as part of this conversation. Madison is next door to Huntsville. They're part of our region. And we need to have that perspective around the table. So about 5 of us joined in May of 2002 when I was 31, and then started this role as CEO in September 2017.
And so, I wouldn't say you eased into it, but you didn't just come right in and take over as the CEO. You kind of worked at it for a while. So you've seen it grow a lot from 2017. Is there, and it is strictly Huntsville, but is there a pattern? Are there other communities that maybe have something similar to this, and they patterned it off of that?
That's a great question. There are other committees of 100s across the country, but we're not affiliates. We're not affiliated in any way. There's a couple of organizations in Alabama that are similar, but the way that we do what we do is completely unique and different. And we try to, quite frankly, our goal is to make our community and region a better place. And we do that through those 3 different pillars that we work through. And a lot of that is collaborative spirit in our elected leaders, which we believe we've seen the fruits of, certainly the last 16 plus years. We've seen the fruits of that collaborative spirit in our community. So, for us, our organization is very unique in how we do what we do, and other communities, actually, we have conversations with on how to plant a similar type organization with us. We've had conversations in Coleman, Decatur, Athens, and Franklin, Tennessee as well. So I think the model works, but all politics is local, and so each community has to figure that out.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in that. I think a lot of folks, this is just my opinion, that a lot of folks, they kind of withdraw from politics in general, and they focus on the national and losing sight of that. And I'm guilty of that myself. You focus on that, but really it's who you live and work with every day that you can have the most influence with together to affect the kinds of changes that really affect us every day in everything that we do.
100%, yeah. And our focus is local. We're nonpartisan, and our original articles of incorporation says we're nonpartisan. And the reality of that is you have to be in the middle. You got to collaborate in the middle space.
Yeah.
You can't be on the far left, the far right of anything. You've got to find that center space that you can collaborate in, and you do that through the local means. I mean, you travel on local roads, you pay local taxes. You can call up your school board member and have a conversation over coffee. Hard to do that at the state level, even harder at the federal level.
Right.
And so those local policies are what affect you the most, and that's the space we work in.
Yeah, and that's that was by design, and I think hopefully more folks are getting more involved in their local communities and not getting turned off by politics in general, and just ignoring what's going on locally. And
we try to help that conversation along. I mean, when you think about the Madison County School Board, one of our members is a former school board
That's right.
Member, and so his term was 6 years. Their terms are 6 years. So you think about somebody that has 2 terms on the Madison County School Board. When they welcome your child into kindergarten, they're going to be handing them a diploma at the end of their term. And so you want to make sure you get the best people that you can put in there for that policymaking decisions for students.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask about specifics on the Committee of 100, but is there anything in particular that you had a heavy hand in that you're particularly proud of that the Committee of 100 has been a part of?
Well, I think it's really in the collaborative. When I look back over the last 20 plus years that I've been a member, joined in 2002, again started this role in 2017, but 24 years ago we were talking about how can our downtown look like Chattanooga's. Chattanooga started, they had their aquarium and we were all going up there and we were spending money, and came back here and really how can we make our downtown better? And so started having those conversations with elected leaders and downtown developers and downtown property owners and taking people to Chattanooga. And so, that turned into, I think we can make this a better downtown.
Right.
Turned into progressive and leaning forward business visionary oriented leaders in elected office that said, well, we can make some policy changes in City Hall that can help downtown redevelopment.
Right.
Which turned into Big Spring Partners, which turned into Downtown Huntsville Inc., and turned into the downtown that we have today. And so I think that's an incredible example of kind of the work that we do.
Yeah.
And then others, that are out there as well. We are heavily invested in National Board Certified Teachers, which is another level of certification for our public education teachers called Raise Your Hand. And we are driving a higher concentration of national boards in our 3 systems. And our goal is to have the highest concentration in the country of National Board Certified Teachers, which are shown to have higher achievement in the classroom, average of 3 months gain in the classroom in front of a National Board Certified Teacher. And so we have a lot of things that are multi-year, take a while to get accomplished, but we're very persistent in the work that we do. And so there's a lot of data points that I could probably point to that I'm proud of. But we like to plant a seed. We like to water it. We like to encourage it, use a little influence, and see where it goes and grows. And then when it sprouts its wings, we like to kick it out of the nest and move on to something else.
What's that interface like with the local politicians? Do you have meetings where you invite like school boards and county commissions and that sort of thing to your meetings, or do you go to their meetings, or do you set up little events where you ensure that
all three? And our relationship is great with our elected leaders, and we really look for visionary, business oriented candidates to run for office. And so the challenge that we face as a community is, as we have hyperpartisanship, we have a lot of vitriol, we have social media trolls and warriors behind a keyboard, more people make a decision, I don't want to subject myself to that. And so we take a lot of people that would be great public leaders out of the electoral space.
Yeah.
So for us, we try to help people run for office, understand what that looks like, and then support them while they serve in that seat, because campaigning and governing are 2 polar opposite situations. And so we really try to bring ourselves around elected leaders to help be a sounding board and make good decisions for all, not just a few in our community.
Sure. You mentioned, speaking of electing, one of the things I saw on the website was a push by, I took a note here, for Madison City Schools. Right now they are elected. And then one of the things that the Committee of 100 is trying to highlight is the value of appointing them by a board or by a committee of some sorts.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, all 3 of our school systems are governed in a different way. And so the City of Madison is appointed superintendent, appointed school board members, and the school board members are appointed by the city council. So individuals that don't have to run for office.
Yeah.
And that's a different individual that is serving in an appointed capacity. In the city of Huntsville, they have an appointed superintendent and an elected school board. Mm-hmm. And then in the county, it's an elected superintendent and an elected school board. So the governing is totally different. So we really have been advocating for appointed superintendent in the county. It used to be many, many years ago. Now it's an elected superintendent. And so one of our plank issues is giving the board the ability to appoint their superintendent, go out onto the market with a job description and expectations, and find the best person that can be that superintendent, just like City of Madison, City of Huntsville.
Right. Interesting. So my friend Tony, that we discussed this last week, he posed the question to me about local judges. A lot have to run for election, so they have to be elected. And so now they're beholden to that voter block. And that voter block may not be the entirety of the community. In fact, it usually isn't for local elections.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it feels, like just like you said, it's almost two different people. You've got the guy that got elected, and then now this guy has to execute his office, as opposed to being appointed by a legislature or what have you, a county commission, whatever level of judgeship that person. And he was talking about the value of that, and I don't disagree. In fact, the more I thought about it over the past week, just after we recorded and listening to it again, I see the value in that, especially with your comments.
Well, I dig down into the data of elections and what they look like, and you think about, maybe in a school board race in the city of Huntsville where you have 50,000, give or take, 45 to 50,000 residents per district, and roughly 3,000 to 4,000 voters of that 45,000, so less than 10% make the decision. So, majority plus one is all you need to win.
Right.
So you think about that, the reality is 5% of that district of 45,000 people win the day.
Yeah.
So 5% make that choice. And so
so then it's just a plurality, not
sure.
a majority. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the reality is, how do people get more engaged? We have a very limited attention span in this world, 7 seconds or less.
Yeah.
And so how do you find that voter, and how do you get them to the polls, and how do you get them to vote for you? And so we try to help our folks do that.
Yeah. So that is that the work of the BizPAC also?
It is. So we have a PAC, Political Action Committee. It's called the Business Political Action Committee of Madison County. And so our PAC is 17 members, and we really, our mission statement is to identify, encourage, and develop visionary, business-oriented candidates to run for public office and support them as they serve. Mm-hmm. And so part of that is finding people that have that business acumen, that business experience. They've been through great recessions. They understand what it takes to make a payroll. They understand what it takes to, when they write their name on the front of the check, as our congressman likes to say sometimes. Right. But all those things matter in how you view public policy, public dollars. The dollars are not the cities, it's the taxpayers' dollars.
Right.
And being very frugal in how they go about their execution and spending of those dollars for the betterment of all. And so we have a process where we interview all the candidates that are running in a race. So this cycle, we have the mayor of the city of Huntsville is on the block for elections, as well as District 1 and 5 and School Board District 1 and 5 in the city of Huntsville. So we have those interviews in a couple of weeks. We have a candidate questionnaire they fill out. They come in for a 30-minute interview in front of 17 business leaders in the proverbial hot seat, and we have conversations about what's near and dear to our heart and the community and the region at large. Mm-hmm. So from there, we make our endorsements or not, and then we do everything we can to help them win.
Have you ever had a panel of folks, a slate of folks that were running, but then no one felt like the committee could not come up with a strong endorsement for any of them, and we're just going to withhold?
Yes. And we don't like to take the position of co-endorsing or sitting out races. It's not in our nature, and it's not really what we're there to do.
Right.
We're there to do the hard work, to analyze the races, to find out, what is the best option for us in particular, because it's, issues that are near and dear to our heart that we're advocating for. But I tell BizPAC all the time, our members, that, perfect is not on the ballot.
Right.
And that's applicable to every race in America.
Sure.
Perfect is not on the ballot.
Right.
So you have to look at who and what is out there that can move some of our issues forward, or we can collaborate with and work with. But when you sit there and you listen to some candidates, it's absolutely terrifying sometimes to hear some of the people that might get elected.
Yeah, I'll have to ask you that after we're done recording.
Fair enough.
Talk to me about the Creative Cities Fund.
Yeah.
What is that about?
So the Creative Cities Fund is we like to call our philanthropic arm of the Committee of 100. And it was really created 9 years ago to drive creative innovation in education and economic development. And what that really means is, what are other communities doing? What are other cities doing? What do we need to be bringing in creatively in the business mindset and the business community to help our elected leaders and policymakers be bold and visionary? Let's not just, sit on dead center, we're good enough.
Right.
How can we be exceptional?
Right.
And so Creative Cities is really a tool by which we use, through a traditional luncheon environment that we traditionally have held at the Jackson Center every October, November, to bring in people on certain topics. Last year, we talked about workforce housing and the affordability of housing in our community. An incredibly challenging topic, not just in Huntsville, but certainly across the country, is that affordability of housing. And so we had experts that came down and really gave us a perspective of what that looks like and options to consider. And some of these are challenging and difficult, but that's the kind of space that we like to work in, which is, yes, these things are hard, but yes, we can figure them out. We put man on the moon, so we can figure this out if we collectively want to figure this out.
Right.
And so Creative Cities is a way that we're able to do that. It has spawned many an idea. For instance, Launch is our regional entity that's called Tennessee Valley Regional Partnership. And so it's under the tag of Launch. And so it spawned Launch, it spawned Singing River Trail, it's spawned the Raise Your Hand initiative for National Board Certified Teachers. So we really use that as a creative vessel to launch, innovative and creative ideas to move our community and region forward.
So our mutual friend Ethan, we had him on a podcast fairly early on. That was our second interview, I think.
Okay,
I did a test interview with James from the gym, and then we had Ethan on. But he mentioned that Singing River Trail, and it sounded really interesting. But I'd like to know a little bit more, and then maybe share with the listener what that is about. I know it's a product of Launch, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating origin story, I guess the best way to say it. But quality of life is something that keeps us here and keeps our young professionals here. It keeps our families here, and outdoor recreation is certainly one of those that is a growing segment of a opportunity of quality of life, be it on blueways, rivers, streams, creeks, or hiking, biking, walkways, things like that. And so over the years, greenways have become certainly popular and funded by municipalities and counties, county commissions. So in 2016, Creative Cities had a individual come down that talked about connectivity of greenways, connectivity and walkability of communities. And from there, we actually had probably 28 or 30 regional planners in the room. So county planners, municipal planners. And they started talking about how can we connect Calhoun campuses in Decatur and Huntsville. Mm-hmm. And so ideas from, we'll just go down the railroad track, which is an impossibility.
Yeah.
But
a little dangerous too.
Oh yeah, a little dangerous. But they really put their heads together and said, we can connect our greenways. Madison said we can, our greenway stops here. If we put a little forethought in connecting it over here, we can get it to Athens. And so that idea of a connected regional greenway was really born. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward to 2019, we raised a bunch of money. We had an outside planner plan this route of this now called Singing River Trail, which the Tennessee River was called the Singing River in our indigenous.
I did not know that.
Yes.
So that's okay.
It's a Native American Heritage Trail, and so there's a tremendous story that's on the website that tells the whole story of the Singing River Trail, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I need to fire my researcher.
Yeah,
which is me.
So sorry, stay. But it's a fascinating story, and so from 2019, we fast forward a year, we rolled out the master plan that was 70 miles at the time. The following year, we hired John Kovach as executive director. Mm-hmm. And so in the last 4 years, he's done a great job of growing that trail to 220 plus miles across the region now. So really from east to west across North Alabama, a interconnected network of trails for bike, hike, walkability. So it's a big project. It's a regional project, but it connects communities. Nobody else is in that space. Mm-hmm. And it is a driver of economic development, of workforce, of quality of life, all of those pieces. So it's a really fascinating story to see grow from an idea to really reality. And so they're in process of building the trail out in segments. It's too big. You can't do it all at once. You got to fund it and then build it. And so, but it's pretty exciting.
Is there any proposed development alongside the trail, maybe in parallel to that trail activity?
Yes.
Shops, restaurants, and that sort of thing. Is it going to be that big?
Yeah, the big vision is, you ride a 20 or 30 mile segment on the trail. You stop at a fish camp and have catfish and a cold beer and get back on your bike, go back home, or you bike 30 miles, you camp out, you go the next day another 40 miles, and the reality is there's a real possibility, again, very big vision, but you can connect to different trail systems, Trail of Tears and others across North Alabama into Mississippi, into North Georgia, South Tennessee, and connectivity of all of these trails. And so what other trail systems across the country have found is that these are incredible economic drivers for people in that biking community to develop a trail. So yes, that's kind of the big vision.
Yeah, that's a winner because that northeastern corner of Alabama that we're on the edge of, right when the hills begin, right here. There is a lot of just beautiful area, just absolutely stunning. I got the opportunity to fly around a lot when I was working.
Yeah,
and just up along Mentone. What's the other name of that? There's another town over there, slightly large. Fort Payne. That's it.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. And when you're driving it, it's beautiful, but there's a lot to offer for camping, fishing, hiking, that sort of thing. So
yeah, and it just opens up the ideas of what can be in some of these different communities. And as Huntsville has become the economic engine of North Alabama, clearly, communities all across the region in North Alabama are seeing the benefits from that and the challenges as well.
Sure. Yeah.
From infrastructure, transportation, time it takes to get from point A to point B, but also the economic growth, people moving in that say, hey, I want to live in Guntersville instead of Huntsville, and I'm going to commute every day, or I'm going to live in Decatur, I'll work in Huntsville and, just commute and travel. And so those are the challenges that are out there, but also opportunities.
So speaking of that challenge, bringing, folks moving here from other areas, and we're transplants. I was in the Army for about 23 years, and my last assignment was up here. We were excited about the opportunity, and we planted our roots, I guess, 13 years ago we moved up. Love it. It's similar to Dayton, Ohio, where my wife and I grew up when it comes to that kind of mix of agriculture, technology with Wright Patton, the research for the Air Force up there, and then what's down here. Of course, there's a lot more industry up there in that region that's born out of Charles Kettering working for Henry Ford, and he wanted to stay in Dayton. So a lot of that industry grew up around that and other National Cash Register. Anyway, sidebar. We have a lot to offer. There's a lot to offer. And so a lot of folks, and because you have a lot to offer and there's already a population offering it, a lot of folks want to move here. So what's the biggest challenge that we're going to face as we continue to grow in population when it comes to especially road infrastructure? Looks like we got plenty of houses and apartments,
right.
But road infrastructure, what are you seeing from your perspective?
Well, yes. I mean, we are, over the years, people have said we're the kind of the jewel of Alabama, and we are different, and we are. I mentioned earlier, I mean, there is a foundation that has been laid, quite frankly, back in the 60s, in my opinion, that says, I envision, Von Braun and Kennedy having a sidebar conversation, and Kennedy says, well, we're going to go to the moon. And, the team had said, well, thought about it a little bit, probably pondered, raised an eyebrow, and then they said, well, okay, let's roll. And so that foundation of can-do spirit is I think what we are built on. And so people recognize that, employers recognize that, the workforce has that ingrained in their culture. And so yes, people want to move here. But I think transportation and infrastructure is probably always a continued growing challenge for a growing community. How do you make sure that you move your people from point A to point B effectively? And that's a perspective. People that move here from Northern Virginia come down, or Atlanta move here, and they say you have no problems.
Yeah.
You may have one or two problems every once in a while where you're a standstill, but at the end of the day, you have no problems.
Right.
But I think having the foresight to bring the region together to talk about regional connectivity and infrastructure, and additionally, making sure that we get the fair share that we send down south to Montgomery back up here to do our road projects in a timely manner. Mm-hmm. So I think for us, having a very strong legislative delegation from North Alabama, we're in a great spot to continue to have that conversation and argument. But I think infrastructure is probably one of those things, and it's certainly on the top of mind of all of our elected officials is how do we make sure that we stay ahead of that so we don't end up like a Nashville, or we don't end up like a Chattanooga, which, again, love Chattanooga. We were up there a month or so ago with Launch, actually visited another regional entity out of Chattanooga called Thrive. And so, the question was, well, do we have to go through downtown Chattanooga?
Yeah, that's tough.
And forgive my statistic because it might be wrong, but what we learned from Thrive up there that was something around 80% of the nation's cargo traffic flows through Chattanooga, but doesn't stop there, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that being said, I think that's part of it. And then again, quality of life. I think the mayor Battle says it the best, which is we want to be the best. We're the biggest in Alabama, but we want to be the best. And I think that's a really great way to say that.
Sure.
I think Huntsville is uniquely different in every single district in Huntsville. Geographically, all politics is local. Each community has different issues, of course, that they're concerned about. But I think we have to continue to broaden our aperture of really how does policy affect all, not some, versus some, not the all.
Right.
And that's totally different kind of perspective shift.
Yeah. But the plan is like we need to stay ahead of it and just continue.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. I agree because, just like that perspective that launch is based off of, we need to think 30 years down the road or 20 years down the road about where we want to be and start making those kind of plans now and putting the hooks in.
Putting the hooks in,
so
correct.
That we can actually get there. And if we need to alter our plan because the situation changed, then we'll remain flexible throughout.
Yeah, and that's really, I tell people 80-90% of my day is spent in tomorrow plus 10 years.
Yeah.
What does that look like in 10 years? We know what it looks like today, but how are we going to get that in 10 years? So as we really look at the next 4 years in the local leadership, there's going to be some significant changes in the next 4 years. We have a governor's race in 2 years. We have 2 North Alabama individuals that I'm sure will be vying for the governorship in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so as hopefully we will have a North Alabama governor, and if that's the case, out of those folks, then a lot of deck chairs will change.
Sure.
So, in the next few cycles, we have a lot of different changes. Madison has an election next year. All 7 of their city council people and mayor is on the ticket next August. So when we start really looking at turnover of seats because people aren't going to run again, there's a lot of risk to our stable leadership if we don't get quality people running for office.
Sure.
And so for the next 4 years, we're really, really, really focused heavily on encouraging and finding people to serve in office that would be great public servants.
Have you considered running for office?
I think for me, as I've looked in the role that I'm at right now, this is a perfect fit for me, and this is a perfect fit for my perspective of what I think our organization can do and has done. And I see the tentacles of the work that we've done continuing to make impact from teachers to students to achievement to public education to regionalism. So I think for me, there's a lot that, certainly I want to accomplish in the next 4 years to 2028 that we've got to get there and be effective in the role that I'm in. And so I think I'm in a perfect spot for that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah. Not saying you wouldn't make a good servant of the community. I won't say politician because that.
Thanks.
What you mentioned education, but do you guys touch anything to do with trade schools or anything like that?
Well, we have certainly been a believer in career education and giving the opportunities for career education for as many as possible. And sometimes it's just a matter of bringing an opportunity for a student that may have never even known about opportunities that are there. And so we are working towards a concept called Ascend Huntsville, which is in that space of somewhat in the space of career education, but it's also in the space of connecting in-demand jobs with talent that we have in our backyard. So right now we have a labor force participation challenge, meaning we have people that are on the sidelines and we don't know why they won't come to work or get involved in the workforce. And so this concept really is finding those individuals in a different way. What do I mean by that? Well, for so many years, we've been fishing in the same watering hole for the same type person to fill a job, and we've been pulling up fish.
Yeah.
They're out there. Well, now we're getting empty hooks. So we've got to rebait the hook. We've got to fish in a different fishing hole. We've got to understand that some of these wraparound services like transportation, childcare, and other things that people need to get to the job and do the job are important, and we've got to figure out how to address those as well if we want people to stay on the job and get into the workforce. It's just a little bit more challenging and difficult. And so Ascend is really an idea to find those the talent that we know is in our backyard. We don't have to import them here. We don't have to spend relocation dollars to get them here. We can find them. We know where they're at, and then connect them with the right employers with the right wraparound type services. So it's a little bit different way to fish for people to get them into their career that can really advance them and their families.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
it's different.
So, we're about out of time. We're hitting up on our 40 minutes, and I promised you 30 to 45.
Yeah.
That's
been great.
Fast.
Yeah.
But any closing remarks, reference your work with Committee 100, anything that you want to leave the listener with?
Well, I would just encourage the listener to get involved. You know, if you know you get tired and fed up with national and state politics, you know, you live here and get involved and get engaged. Find the answers. You know, participate in local activities, but participate in your local elected officials. Get to know them. They're eager to hear your call and have a conversation. And so I would just encourage people that if you want good, quality, visionary leaders that are collaborative in spirit, then you have to put in the hard work as well.
Sure.
And so I think for us as a community at large, the next 4 years really will be telling on how we go about finding those right people to serve that are in the same vein of forward-leaning, business-led, growth kind of minded people to serve in office. That are collaborative in spirit, and that's what's going to continue our success as a community and as a region if we're successful in that. And that takes the average voter getting involved and getting engaged.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. So I appreciate your time, John. I appreciate
Thank you,
your
Adam.
friendship. Thanks for
You
coming
too.
out.
Yeah, it's great. Great conversation.
Working out with you. Maybe we'll
same.
do a vest wad on Saturday sometime.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
3 years ago, we were in the competition together, and that was a rough one.
It
was in June 3 years ago.
That was rough.
Yeah,
that was rough.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
great time.
We'll keep everyone posted, and we'll have links to the Committee of 100, Huntsville Committee of 100 on our show notes. So Abby, the intern, will take care of that for us. So.
Thank you, Abby, the intern.
All right. Appreciate your time, John, and we will see you next week on Mish Mash Men.
Thanks.